Hello and welcome to the Kelcast, the Hearthstone Arena podcast where we try to get better without cursing. I'm Keldar, a longtime Arena leaderboard player and streamer on Twitch. Joining me as my co-host is another Arena leaderboard player, Kellen Abel. If you want to find us on social media, you can search for Keldar on Twitch, YouTube, or Twitter. That's Keldar, that's Keldar. All right, Kellen, so what are we looking at this week?
Well, this week we're talking about the worst 5 classes in the new meta. Last week we talked about the best, and this week it's time to get into the gutter with the worst. Things have finally settled down, but we're still seeing a couple weird things that we'll talk about when we get to those classes, but micro adjustments seem to have made things, more consistent again.
Yeah, it's a fun meta to jump into right now. I'm really having a good time with it. I'm really enjoying playing a variety of different classes. Let's get right into it and on with the show. So the first class we're going to talk about, if you guys, just to kind of give what the top 5 classes were, we talked about them last week. We had Druid, Rogue, what are the other ones? We talked about Shaman, Warlock, and Warrior. If you guys are interested in learning how to win with those classes, you can just skip on back to episode, is it 12 now?
Episode 13.
So, sorry, episode 13, which is the last one. But for this week, we're going to talk about the other 5 classes. And I think there's still some contenders here. In terms of a tier list, real fast, it does seem like Druid and Rogue are kind of on the top tier. Then it goes Shaman, Warlock, and Warrior. And then the first 2 classes we're going to talk about are Hunter and Mage. And they're kind of like on their own little tier. And then the bottom 3 are kind of all at the bottom. So, all right, so let's just talk about Hunter. What cards are winning with Hunter, Kellen?
No one's going to be surprised, but the best 2 cards that are not legendaries are True Aim Crescent and Teacher's Pet. Those cards have been dominating the format since they came in for Hunter. Mm-hmm. Not the format, the Hunter format,
right?
not the format as a whole.
Yeah.
And then Adorable Infestation, Darkspear Berserker, Soldier of Fortune, Rust Sword Initiate, and then Coralisk, Bark Ripper, and Imprisoned Vile Fiend. So you might notice all of those cards are fantastic stats. All those creatures, or minions, are fantastic stats for their mana, except for Coralisk, Bark Ripper, which has one of the best spell bursts in the game. One other thing to note, the top 2 legendaries for Hunter are Rainling's Rifle and Ace Hunter Preen, which are fantastic legendary minions. So if you are winning with Hunter, it is likely it is very possible that you are winning because you have one of those 2 cards in your deck. Those legendaries are extremely powerful and are able to create some of the best early game, mid game, and late game tempo swings that you can find.
Yeah, I mean, Kreen is so strong that frankly, if you draw it early on 3. Actually, it doesn't even have to be early, but if you draw it in like however many games you draw it in your deck, you draw it in those games, like you're gonna win that many extra games. So it's it can literally by itself win you an extra 5 games easy.
Oh yeah. If you have that card and you're able to make a trade, you are ahead and you could have been behind before that. That's how strong it is.
Yeah, I mean, I used to remember how I was upset that they made Death Speaker, which is back in Frozen Throne, which is a 3-mana 2/4 that you would have to target a minion on your board and then it would get, it would be immune for the turn. And this is just your whole board and face. In fact, I remember when I first played it, I didn't realize that it was all characters so that your face counted. And I remember like I played it, it was on stream, and like I hit something with my face and should have taken like 5. And I'm like, oh shit, this card is so broken.
It is very good.
Yeah.
I think the thing to note about True Aim Crescent, which is the best performing Hunter non-legendary, is it's been good forever. A couple months ago, we did a pod about Hunter and how I enjoyed playing with it. It wasn't specifically about Hunter, but I was really doing well with Hunter for a streak there. And my big takeaway was True Aim Crescent is the truth. It is the card you need if you want to win with Hunter. And that just hasn't changed. It's such a powerful, as a 1-mana 1/4 weapon, it's already fantastic. And then its ability to do ridiculous things with Frenzy and work with all the poison minions. I don't know if you've heard of Venomous Scorpitor, some of those kind of cards. But the cards that have been coming out have made True Aim Crescent even better. So if you see a True Aim Crescent, it is the best card in Hunter. It's a small card, so I know sometimes it's easy to look at a Venomous Scorpid or a Steward of Scrolls and compare it and think, oh, these cards give me so much more value. No, True Aim Crescent is the best card. If you see it, I cannot think of a card I would ever consider taking over it, almost no matter the situation. if I already had 2 other True Aim Crescents, maybe I would make a different decision.
I
That's
still,
kinda the level.
yeah, I still have said many times, like, I don't understand how this card has 4 durability. Because, like,
Yeah.
you know, just to give a small comparison, up until recent, maybe not as much recently, but for years, I kept saying to people, you know, you need to take Light's Justice and Paladin. Like, this card is like a type of card that will just win you the game because you have an extra ping for the first 4 turns. And this card is literally that on crack. And it you can go face first and then trade. Like, you can get face. It does everything you want. It's just so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of the decks I either discover this card or I have it in my deck, and that's the ones that win.
So Hunter's right now sitting at 48% win rate, which means, I mean, Hunter's always been one of the harder classes to play because its hero power demands that you play the game well in order to take advantage of it. So I think my expectation is if you're a more advanced player, Hunter will be one of your better classes right now. And this is anecdotal evidence that I'm about to say here, but it is indicative of the higher win rate players enjoying Hunter. I've received 2 separate messages from other leaderboard players talking about Hunter and how they're doing well with it, and asking me about how I've been doing with it, because I think it is a good class for good players right now. It can be difficult to play because it does require a really, really efficient use of your mana compared to some of the other classes.
Yeah, years ago, before all this rush and all these massive taunts, I mean, you could play Hunter as long as you were aggressive. That could sometimes be enough.
Yeah.
Even without skill, like, that would be enough to get you there, and it was pretty strong. I have to say, it's pretty crazy to show the meta. Normally, when Warlock is a better class like it is right now, Hunter is usually kind of like, I guess it's semi-close to the win rate of Warlock, but they kind of go together, because when Warlock's good, normally the amount of damage they do to themselves makes Hunter move up. I don't feel like it's moving up as much as it normally does.
I think the presence of so much life gain in Warlock really has offset that advantage that Hunter typically has.
Yeah. So I'm going to let you take this. Normally I would give at least some more feedback, but I haven't played a ton of Hunter. We talked about this a little bit before we started, but it seems like, you know, with Hunter, can you get away with just drafting a good solid curve with 1, 2s, and 3s and win that way without these massive hits? Can you get infinite with that or not?
I think you can. I think that can get you to 7, but you're really going to need to build a deck that is cohesive. So taking cards that fit into your curve and fit into your strategy is going to be important. One of the things that made Hunter good in the past, and in the last meta before micro adjustments, was its ability to choose a lane and run down it. Like, it could go Death Rattle, it could go Secrets, it could go aggressive. And so those 3 options made it so it had different ways to win, but you had to choose one or maybe like 1.5 and go through with that direction. With this current format, that is still somewhat true. There is a somewhat of a beast theme and a few other things, but the main way to win with Hunter seems to draft a lot of value cards that don't upset your curve, like Scorpid and Pack Kodo, but then win with your powerful cards like Teacher's Pet and fill your curve up with things like Adorable Infestation. I think because it has access to Adorable Infestation and True Aim Crescent, which again are number 1 and 3 in terms of their highest win rate cards, you are able to fill out your curve on your turns where you're not hitting that exact curve drop. So you're able to draft decks that have powerful cards because you can curve fill with Adorable Infestation and True Aim Crescent. And so what I mean by that is, if you're playing, if you have a lot of 2 drops but not a lot of good 3 drops, you can go turn 2, 2 mana 2/3, turn 3, 2 mana 2/3 plus Adorable Infestation or True Aim Crescent, and now you're back to a real curve. So I think that's a good way to explain how to draft, or I don't know, that's one way to look at a curve that we haven't had in the past, where you can really fill your spots with the one mana cards.
So one thing I'm noticing so I'm going to go over just a couple of the other cards on our list of the top cards. There's a theme I'm noticing that I want to bring up, which is some of the cards on the list are Dark Spirit Berserker, 4 mana 5/7. We have Soldier of Fortune, which is a 4 mana 5/6. And then we have Imprisoned Vile Fiend, 2 mana 3/5. And then we have the Rustworn Initiate. All of those cards have the ability to value trade something and then still go face. They can kill something outright by themselves. So basically, a 4 mana 5/7 that can basically kill a the 4/5 taunt, you can kill the amalgam, and then you still can hit face for one. Because you can't just, from what I'm seeing against the hunters I've played and stuff, like you can't just win by getting enough stats down and then just pushing enough face. Like you have to be able to still trade, but then still get the extra damage face because you still need to be aggressive. All those cards kind of do that. So I think that's one of the reasons those. Go ahead.
I was going to take that a slightly different direction. That is 100% true, but I think what's really strong about Hunter is that you don't have to make the trades for your opponent, or you don't have to make those trades because, like you mentioned, all those creatures or all those minions except for Vile Fiend, which has Rush, so you can't go face on the first turn. But a Soldier and a Soldier of Fortune and Darkspear Berserker, those cards can go face on the first turn. There aren't a ton of direct removal spells right now. So you can go face that first time, and often your opponent will be forced to make a bad trade with either 2 minions so you'll get your value trade either way, but you'll still get, like you're saying, you'll still get that value trade plus an extra attack face.
Yeah. So one thing is going to be a little bit of a theme with these classes, and when we're going to go over how do you win with Hunter. One of the keys that I would say to people is, as a meta awareness type of thing, is that there are not a lot of AoEs. They exist. They can be discovered, but like drafted AoE, like even Volcanic Potion, Flame Strike, do they exist? Yes, but they do not exist to the level they used to where you actually play around them. So, I mean, not that you obviously can play around them if like it doesn't destroy your win condition per se, but what I want to tell people is definitely make sure that you realize like that you have to push all in and you have to go for the win. Don't play so conservative that you take away your ability to win a game, because if I'm playing Hunter right now, like I'm spreading wide on turn 6 and I don't give a shit about if they have it, they have it, they're going to beat me anyway. I think it's even more true now because these decks are all these classes we're going to talk about are going to struggle a little bit more than the others to win. So you got to really take advantage of the hits to the face when you can and be aggressive and not be too conservative with trading.
Oh yeah. I love that about the current era. I can play my cards. It's really nice to be able to play my cards.
Yeah, last meta before Barrens, I was losing my mind because every time I played cards, some reason they were gone the next turn. So, would you say, if you had a choice for last thing about Hunter, if you had a choice between a card when you're drafting that is good stats and go face and one that can discover, would you say you value one more than the other? Do you feel like you need the discovers so much that you would like sacrifice a little bit of tempo? Or do you
I think it really depends on your deck.
So
that's the thing with Hunter. Like I was saying, you got to build a full deck. So if you have a deck that has no discover so far and a good suite of aggressive creature or minions, I keep saying that, then you should probably take the value card that gets you and fill out your deck with a value card, because you need that well-rounded.
Well, one thing
deck
that I'm noticing from this list is resizing pouch is not on it, which tells me the fact that it's not on the top list tells me that it's probably more decks that are slightly aggressive are winning more than ones that get to like turn 10. You know what I mean? Just because of the fact that that's not on the list. So lots of interesting things to talk about there, but we can move on. But there's definitely some ways you can win with it. It's definitely, I guess I would say it's like, tier C. It's not the top, it's not the second top, but it's these two classes, Mage and Hunter. You can definitely do well with them if you're good players and you know how to draft and you know how to use your, play well in the games. What is winning with Mage? We got Power Creation is up on the top with Transfer Student. We got Conjurer's Calling, which is no shocker. It moved back to 3 mana. Yippee. I was so upset because they did these unnerfs before this cycle, and unfortunately that does affect Arena when these sets come back. Then we got Confection Cyclone, and we got Flame Strike. So a lot, basically their most powerful card.
That's I think what you got to look at for Mage. All of the cards that have come back that are powerful: Conjurer's Calling and Power of Creation, and then Flame Strike, which has been buffed, and then the best card from the other most recent set, Confection Cyclone. It's just all their best cards. That's how you win with Mage. It's a very simple formula.
Yeah. When I have played Mage and I've done well with it, even when I had these crazy power cards, like Conjurers, I still have been drafting really good 3-drops and 2-drops and basically trying to get early face damage so that when I hit these massive combos, I'm close enough that I can just finish the game as soon as possible. So yeah, and the other thing, one thing about conjures, guys, don't be afraid to conjure as like a 3-drop or a 4-drop, because if you conjure as a 3-drop, or I've seen this happen so many times where I've watched people lose because basically like they get their 8-drop down the conjures, but then it doesn't have taunt, and then I kill them. And it's like if they had just played the conjures on 4, the game would have been over for the most part. So yeah, don't be greedy with that card. Just a little small tip to throw out there.
One other thing I've been able to do while playing Mage is draft enough fireballs and runed orbs that I can just finish off the opponent from a medium life total. I also have noticed that a lot of my Mage opponents that beat me kill me with fireball, or with ping fireball, something like that. So be ready for that. Fireball is going to be drafted a lot. It is a good card, and it is going to kill you when they cast it on your face, just like it has through all the years.
For all these years, Fireball's been hitting our face.
It has not changed.
It has not changed. They don't have the polys anymore, which is another whole reason why you can't really win. You can't really always win the value game anymore with Mage. You do, like I kind of mentioned this as we were talking about Hunter, but you need to make sure that you're being aggressive enough with your mid game to get enough face hits, which might mean, them getting a trade off and having to ping it the next turn. But whatever you got to do to get more damage in, I think it's important right now. I've had, like I said, most of my mages that have had really good value minions have done really well. And again, with Hunter and Mage both, I think we're going to talk about the difference with the other 3 classes in a second, but you can draft a pretty good curve and just a good solid deck and go infinite with these classes. You don't have to, you're not going to probably go 12 unless you hit some of these massive power hits. We didn't talk about, there's still Grand Finale lurking around. It doesn't seem like Elemental Synergy is super easy to get, but it is possible sometimes if you get a little lucky in the draft. But yeah, I think this class can still go infinite pretty often. So
I'd say it's in the same tier as Mage, or as Hunter. Excuse me. Like you were saying, it is really, Hunter and Mage are still classes that I wouldn't love to have them as my best class offered, but I'd still be happy to play them. They're fun to play too.
That's what I mean. Like they're still they're still good enough that like in this meta, the way it's balanced, that if you want to just play, if you like Hunter and Mage and they're fun for you, you totally can still, like, you're not going to just go 0-3 because you take the class. So you can still get infinite and have fun with it. So and that's one of the best things about this meta in general, is just the ability to just feel free to take what you want to play for fun. But yeah, that pretty much will cover Mage. Next, we're going to move on to Priest, which was one of the things before the micro adjustments we were not super happy about. Man, it was...
So Priest really is feast or famine. If it is good, it is great. And if it is bad, it is so bad. And I think this is one of those times where it is really not something I ever want to take. I never, ever want to be taking Priest. And it's not because the class's overall win rate is so atrocious. It is still at 47%, which is pretty darn bad. One of the worst in the game right now. But more importantly, there will be drafts when I have Priest and I am just offered nothing. I just have no cards in my deck that I would like to have in my deck. And I think I don't get that with many other classes. Priest just feels like its micro adjustments have made it so I would draft deck. I have done this already twice, where I draft a Priest deck and I retire it before I even start playing. I just have no interest in playing a boring all neutral minion deck with no hero power that can really affect the board in the early turns, and then I get run over by a value deck in the late game, or a deck that can play neutral minions and affect the board early. So yeah, I have to say I have not loved Priest right now. It's not very fun to play.
Yeah, dude. I mean, like I said, this is kind of the MO. If you guys, some of you listening might not realize about micro adjustments and how they work, but both Demon Hunter and Priest were the top of the meta before the micros, and basically the way that they micro classes is they take the cards with the highest win rates, which is a lot of times their class cards and the fun cards because they're strong, and they just nerf them to hell. And I mean, like, you end up basically, I remember they used to do this with Rogue. I talk about this all the time. Rogue would be at the top class. They would micro adjust it, and it would still be like in the top-ish level, like top 5, but it would be so boring because literally you would just be playing with your hero power and whatever neutral minions you got. And right now, Priest, it feels so bad. Like, you almost have to, like, if you don't hit at least 2 Draconic studies, like, yeah, you might as well just retire it. Like, the thing is the way that Blizzard is like constructed Priest is they've like made it that they have to have these big power spikes, and then to make them balanced in Arena, they remove the power spikes, and now it's like you don't have your buff cards, you don't have like you don't get like what's the 3-mana 1/1 Divine Shield buff card? I can't remember that. Look, Gift of Luminance. So you don't have cards like that. Like you can't cheese anything. And when you have no way to cheese and get extra damage, and all you've got is this hero power that heals you, like, yeah, it's not fun.
It's rough. I think one of the things that's, if you go to the HS replay list and sort by deck win rate on Priest for Arena, you will just look at a sea of legendary cards that are far above all of the other cards. It's just a wild menagerie of different legendary minions and spells, and then finally you get to like some neutral and some rares and epics down the road. But
yeah,
I mean, all the way down to like the 20th card, I think there's only 4 non-legendaries, because that's just where Priest is right now. It has insane legendaries that you're never offered, and that's how you win.
Yeah, so if you guys want to know how to win with Priest, it is high roll, high roll, high roll. You just Yeah.
With that being said, I mean, you can still do the bit draft minions with big butts and try and heal them, and you can probably sneak out 4 wins or 5 wins, which will, is above the average of the current win rate of Priest. So maybe that's worth it. But I would avoid Priest, not just because it's not doing very well, but it's not fun. I don't find it very fun to play right now.
Like some classes, when you don't get a great deck and you grind it out, it feels great. The problem with Priest is, this has been always true. When you have to grind out with Priest, it feels really bad. It just doesn't. Maybe let's say you get a bad mage deck. It's like, okay, I got my ping, and I go face a lot, and like maybe I get 5 wins. Okay, I took that crappy deck to 5 wins. With Priest, it's like, take that same situation, but now it's like, okay, this is going to take 3 hours, and I'm going to get 3 wins. Like, it just does not feel good. So I would definitely agree with Kellen. Let's avoid Priest unless, if you really like it, and you want to just try it, sure. But I definitely wouldn't recommend it. So now we're going to move on to Paladin. Kind of an interesting thing about Paladin is that we really thought with the core set adjustments, I really thought that Paladin would do a little bit better, but I guess part of it is that the classes that are on top just compete with it so strongly that they just can't stay on the board to pull off their stuff.
It's in a weird situation. So specifically Rogue and Druid right now, because Rogue has always been the classic Paladin killer since the dawn of time.
Yes.
But with the changes to Druid, with the AoE buffs, it's doing something that Paladin typically does, where it plays minions, smaller minions, and then buffs them to make them strong, or plays minions and then creates a bigger minion later. Druid is doing Paladin's job way better than Paladin.
That is exactly true. That is 100% the right way to say it. Yeah.
Yeah, so the cards that are winning the most in Paladin right now are Underlight Angling Rod, Hammer of the Naru, Blessing of Authority, Carnival Clowns, and First Day of School. All cards that have been good for a long time. Nothing surprising on that list, of course. But one of the things that I find fascinating there is you're not finding a good cheap minion there outside of First Day of School. That's all really powerful individual cards that don't require much of a deck to do well on their own. So I'm not sure what the strategy should be right now to win with Paladin. And as I've said many times, I'm not a good Paladin player. So I'm really not sure how you develop a strategy to win with Paladin. Have you had any experience with that, Kel?
Yeah. There's not really a lot of answers. I mean, I can explain it only in a way, and it's not good news. Typically the best way Paladin works a lot of times is you can have some value cards and some big buffs and just outvalue people, or you take the approach where you just have tons of first days of school, and you got a board of 5 minions by turn 2, and you just kind of overwhelm them. But you kind of hit it all right on the head. The problem is that, I don't know, 30-40% of your matchups are Druid, and they just do it so much better that basically, sure, you can spread out with 4 or 5 minions, but then Druid buffs theirs and they value trade, and then you're off the board and the game is over. I mean, there's just not a lot you can do. I mean, the classes, I will say the only ones that I'm seeing, now I haven't played Paladin a ton, but I will tell you the classes that the Paladins that I'm seeing at past 7 wins are ones that get, oh God, what's the one that, the 5 mana 5/5 Divine Shield that corrupts to be the 8/8? With
Carousel Griffin.
Yeah, so Carousel Griffin, the ones that I see past 7 wins have like 3 Carousel Griffins. They got like 2 Blessing of Authorities. I mean, frankly, you have to high roll even more than Priest does to hit. Because the problem is that you, like a regular strategy of just having good curve cards is really not, you just don't have enough tools and they're not getting enough weapons. It just doesn't work. I mean, I guess the funny thing is I'm supposed to be telling you guys how to win with them, but it's not good. It's just not good. I mean, you just got to hope that you hit a really strong deck and it has enough synergy, because like a lot of times the slower decks you just don't have enough value. The cards that normally would give you value to win those type of matchups, just you don't have enough. Like you just don't have enough to finish the games. So I really would avoid it right now. I would say that if you're going to win with it, it's probably a deck that has really strong early game, really strong, and then kind of skips and then has kind of the late value, like you kind of skip the mid game. I would say that's probably those are the only, I did play a couple Paladins and those decks got like over infinite, but that was it. Basically super and crazy early game with up till turn 3, and then some of the decks, I remember one Paladin I had that went infinite, didn't even have any 4-drops. And then I had like, you know, Colossus and some big stuff at the end. So, yeah, it's kind of it's a tough situation, to be honest.
So that brings us to the strangest, because the last 2 classes honestly have been kind of downers. Priest and Paladin, they're in a really sad place. They're not fun to play. You kind of get outmatched by everything. Demon Hunter is in a very odd place. I don't know what is going on, but no one is drafting Demon Hunter. Nobody. I don't even know what the actual statistics might be for Demon Hunter, because there are in the top 10, the 2 watch posts are still present. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if did they just not offer Demon Hunter to people? Also, the total amount of data for each card is significantly lower than every other class. Like we're looking at, times played 1 to 2,000 versus 20,000 for other classes. So I am not sure what's going on. Has just no one drafted Demon Hunter since the micro adjustments?
Here's something that based on my experience, remember everyone listening, this is kind of these are theories. I'm not sure if this is true, but these are my theories. So the first thing I noticed was one thing I've always complained about is the top, and this unfortunately happened again. The classes that they micro adjust down, that are the top classes, Demon Hunter and Priest, they always micro adjust them into the ground, which I don't think is the best way to do it. I don't mind them being sub 50%, but like them getting down into like the 43% range, or I guess it's not that bad this time, but like they shouldn't automatically just drop to the bottom because you micro adjust them. So I don't love that. So initially during the first, like even through the first 2 weeks, I saw Demon Hunter for the first like week, it dropped, right? But it dropped to like 52%. And then like 5 days later, it was like 50%. And then like 5 days later, it was like 47%. And so at first I thought it was stabilizing around 50%. And then it dropped all the way down to like where it is. And so what I'm realizing, and based on any Demon Hunters I've faced, they have had watch posts, pretty much every single one of them. So what I think has happened is I think the win rate was actually, nobody was drafting it because it felt so bad. And I think the win rate was literally being held up by old decks. And the fact that Morshon Watch Post is even on the list shows you that's
it's literally
probably
the best card right now. HS Replay is 48 hours old data. So these cards have been banned for 2.5, 3 weeks now.
It's a banned card.
And it's the best non-legendary card in Demon Hunter.
Yeah,
It's wild. I've never seen anything.
yeah, this
like
is
before.
definitely something new that I haven't seen. When you told me that, I actually almost was like, "Are you sure?" So anyway, I think that based on the way I saw, like I said, the win rate, like I said, I thought, "Oh wow, they didn't just obliterate Demon Hunter, so I can still play it." But I really think what happened is I think that people just held on. There were so many Demon Hunter decks, just people on people's accounts. I think there's just so many of them because it was so strong, and those decks just kept getting played throughout those 2 or 3 weeks as it dropped down until they were now gone. Because I have to say, I think at least, I'm not even exaggerating, at least 60 to 70% of the decks that I faced that were Demon Hunter after the micro adjustments, after it was banned, had Morshan Watchpost in it.
It's so funny. Yeah, I even just looked at the last 14 days specifically, and it is the same. It's still Marshawn Watchpost at the top. That's just I just can't even believe that. And Far Watchpost is still on there. Two of the most played cards, 2 of the most winning cards. That's just so strange to me.
But that being said, there is something to say about that. If that is true, which again, we're theorizing here a little bit, but if it is true, I do think that it doesn't necessarily mean the class's win rate is as quite as bad as it's saying. Like, I think, like I said, thinking about Demon Hunter with a 1-mana hero power, like even with neutral cards, it should be able to do okay if you're aggressive. I don't know if it's quite as good as Hunter and stuff, but I feel like you should still be able to do okay. I haven't really drafted it, frankly, so it's hard for me to make much,
Okay, so I have a plan. We had a show planned for next week about mulligans and how to make good decisions. I challenge you to this. Between now and next Saturday, we should play as many Demon Hunter drafts as we can, and determine what the heck is going on. Because this is just too weird to me. I can't handle this. It is so strange. I have not had many opportunities to draft Demon Hunter. Yeah. I don't know what's going. I really don't understand what's going on. But can we do that? Can we just figure out what's going on with Demon Hunter for next week?
Well, I know one thing, that when we draft our Demon Hunters, we aren't going to get watch posts.
Oh no! How are we gonna win?
I know that's the top rated card. We can't even draft it. Oh man.
Oh god.
So what is? I guess we just have to be honest. We both haven't really played the class, so giving you guys advice is kind of semi-difficult. But
apparently no one's played the class. I don't know what. Yeah. So
the fact that I'm seeing watch posts in all the Demon Hunter matchups I'm facing shows you that. Well, it's either that they're so bad that they're not making it, far enough.
They're just not. Yeah, they're just not. They're old decks. So I don't know. So that's our plan. We're gonna do that between now and next Saturday. We're gonna play as many Demon Hunters as we can.
Yeah, because we normally really try to support our what we say with stats to back it up. I mean,
we can't do that right now.
Yeah, we really can't. We're literally making we're literally having to use stats for cards that don't exist anymore in Arena. So that's not good. So yeah. Okay. Well, that I think is a good summation of all the classes. We went through the top 5 last week, the bottom 5 this week. But it's a very good meta. It's very balanced. Sorry. Kellen is typing next week's thing right now, and I'm just laughing. He's giving me things to talk about. But anyway, yeah. So it's a good meta. It's fun. Other than Ysera, dunking you here and there. I think if you can, here's my advice as a player. I've definitely been triggered before through certain metas. Even with how bad Ysera is, I have survived it. And I will tell you, as long as you can accept that every once in a while, a run's gonna go bad because of Ysera here and there. There's been a couple runs that I've been frustrated by because I faced Ysera in 2 different games. I remember there was a run recently where I was at 2 losses. I actually legit beat Ysera when it was played early on, and it felt really good about it. But then the next game I faced Ysera again and I lost. That felt pretty bad. Not gonna lie. But as long as you can get past that and realize that it's just gonna happen here and there, I think if you can dive into the meta and not be so, I guess if you're not short-sighted and you can get past it, you can really have a lot of fun. There's a lot of fun decks you can draft. There's a lot of classes you can try and play, and a lot of different strategies. So I still feel like I'm experimenting. honestly, and still playing around with cards. And it doesn't hurt me that my favorite class is Druid and Rogue are on top. It doesn't help. That definitely helps. So,
it's nice when it's not Mage and Priest. I'm not gonna lie, it feels good.
Yeah. All right, guys, that was gonna do it for the Calcast on our 14th episode. Remember that you can join us live every week at 8 p.m. Eastern on my Twitch channel, or you can download the podcast wherever you get them every Monday. You can also find me on Twitch, where I stream every Monday through Saturday at 7 a.m. Eastern, or you can look on YouTube or Twitter, and it's Keludar. It's Keludar. Make sure you tune in next week when we're going to discuss another important strategy concept. What the fuck is going on with Demon Hunter? I like it, Kellen.
Thanks.
Thanks to John Lux for the music used in the episode. You can find links to all our contributors in the show notes. This has been the Calcast. See you next week. All right. I guess I'm going to do it this week.
What are you going to do?
I don't know. It's actually not really ragey. I'm excited though.
Oh, what are you excited about? Tell me about that's
okay,
fine.
so
We can do that.
I love football. Okay, I love football. And so this is like my favorite weekend, the NFL draft. I fucking love it. It was actually one of the most interesting fucking drafts ever. There was so much, if you follow football, like, this was one of the most crazy, like, what was going to happen, because like we knew like the first two picks were going to be Lawrence and Wilson, and then we didn't know what the heck the 49ers were going to do, and literally what the 49ers decided to do impacted the rest of the draft. And it was really, we thought that they were going to take Mac Jones, and they ended up taking Trey Lance. Is it Trey Lance?
I thought so.
I think it is Trey Lance, but they took him third, which I think was actually the right decision. And I'm an Eagles fan, and I got to say, we fucked up the Giants so good. I actually couldn't believe it. It was one of the most, listen, you got to hear this story. So last season, and for Giants fans out there, I am so sorry. Like, you got shit on really hard by us twice. Last season, what happened was we were losing, right? And if there was ever a game where I watched a team tank a game on purpose, it was last season. The Eagles were playing the Redskins, and basically the way it was going to work was if the Giants needed the Eagles to win to get into the playoffs. Well, the Eagles at halftime, they literally pulled their starting quarterback and put in their third stringer and all their good players, and they tanked that game so hard, and the Redskins barely won, and because of that, the Giants missed the playoffs. So that happened, right? And everyone was upset, which I kind of get it, but like at that point, the Eagles had nothing to play for, and we got a better draft position, so I was happy with it. Well, then the draft happened, so we traded back, and we were the 12th pick, and it was really weird. The Cowboys were 10, the Giants were 11, and the Eagles were 12. And I'm watching it, and I'm just like, I was upset that we traded back because I wanted one of the better players, but it ended up the two of the players I wanted to take at 6 were gone anyway, so it kind of worked out for us. So I'm thinking, what's going to happen? And right before the Cowboys make their selection, I can't believe this, because you have to understand, if you watch football, like, trades inside the division do not happen. Like, you don't typically help each other out. This just doesn't happen. And
this was weird to me.
Yeah. So the fucking Eagles, right before they fucking take it, they fucking they trade with the Cowboys, which I was like sitting there like, what? We made a trade with the Cowboys to move up. I couldn't believe it.
I didn't even know they had each other's phone numbers. I'm surprised.
They've actually the Eagles and the Cowboys have made like 5 or 6 trades in the last couple, like 10 years. Like, it's not like they, but they, anyway, so it was very obvious that the Giants wanted, oh God, now I'm so tired. What's his name?
Devonta Smith?
Yeah, Devonta Smith. They wanted Smith. And it was like, they leaked it. And the Eagles jumped. They gave up like a 3rd round pick, which sort of sucked. But it was worth it because we got Smith. And I do think he's the best receiver in the draft.
I would say, isn't he the last of the good receivers, or is there?
Oh, so no. Kyle Pitts was drafted before him, and so was Waddle. They're both insanely going to be good players. But I maybe I'm off my rocker. He is a little bit like smaller in size. But
is that the one that's 120? Is he the guy that weighs 120 pounds?
He weighs like 160 or something. Okay. But the weird thing is he's about 6 foot, but his wingspan is like 6'7". Like, he has huge long arms for his size, and his hands
1 1/8 inches.
He basically has the wingspan and the hand size of like someone that's closer to 7 foot, which is why
his hands are 9 1/4 inches long.
Yeah, he's got bigger hands than Jimmy Butler. Yeah, it's crazy. So anyway,
Okay.
all needless to say, I think he might end up being like, he has the potential to be like the next Jerry Rice. I do think of that. I know it's crazy, and he's small. They call him the Slim Reaper. We'll see if I'm right. But
I hope it goes well for you.
But we fucked the Giants so hard. I'm so sorry, Giants fans. Actually, I'm not. But like, and here's how you know that. What's really sad is this is how you know that they screwed them over. Is the second that pick happened, they immediately traded down. Immediately, they gave the Bears that pick, the next pick at 11, and they ended up taking Justin Fields, which I think the Bears hit a home run, by the way. Yeah. And then they ended up taking a really bad receiver at 20. So you can tell that they would have definitely taken Smith if they could have. So anyway, that's my rant for the day.
All right. Well, I'm glad you're watching. I tried to pay attention, but it all happened while I was working.
It was a really interesting. There was just so much. There's rarely that much trading and kind of intrigue with the first, because it was like the first 10 to 12 picks were all really good players, and normally like after the first 5, there's kind of a drop off and there's not really a lot of interest. But this was there was just so many different things. So it was really cool. All right, guys. See you next week.